Mixed martial arts is home to a variety of characters, some loved and others, well, not so much. Some of these fighters purposely turn the audience against them to garner attention, others are just plain unlikable. Regardless, today we'll look at the 10 most hated MMA fighters of all time. First on the list, and probably the most hated active fighter in MMA today, is Colby "Chaos" Covington. Despite sporting an impressive 12-1 record, Covington was allegedly going to get let go by the UFC. They didn't like his fighting style, as he wrestled most of his opponents to death and struggled to stand out in the ocean of fighters. Hearing that his spot in the promotion was at risk, Colby did a complete 180 and gave a WWE-esque speech after his win against Demian Maia. Despite being in a hostile territory, in Brazil versus a Brazilian, he called the Brazilian crowd filthy animals and stated that Brazil was a dump.
I should have knocked him out! Brazil, you're a dump! All you filthy animals suck! I got one thing to say!
Covington loved bringing politics, religion, and family into his trash talk, just to make fans spite him even more.
None of the fans care about your fighting style. No one cares about your personality. So I knew I had to make a change. I had to do something that was going to get the fans involved, make it a circus, because this is the circus business, So I knew I had to make a change, and I had to do something drastic that was going to get the fans and everybody hyped up, and that's what I did. Whether you hate me or love me, you're going to tune in to watch me.
And although he comes across as a budget Chael Sonnen, the man can fight, having beaten many elite players in the welterweight division. He has done a fantastic job of transforming himself into a heel. Boos follow him wherever he goes, and people tune in solely to see him get knocked out. Tyron Woodley is a certified beast and one of the best welterweights, period. With that being said, the second half of his UFC career did anything but show that. Although he captured welterweight gold in a spectacular fashion, his defenses of the title didn't show the same explosiveness and ferocity that became expected of Woodley. In fact, he would go as far as to break the record for least amount of punches thrown in a title fight in UFC history when he fought Demian Maia. And in his prior defense against Stephen Thompson, his output was more or less the same. His fighting style received heavy criticism from Dana White and fans alike.
They broke the record for the least punches ever thrown in a title fight. There's not much to be pleased with or to talk about. I mean, what really is there to talk about in that fight?
To make matters worse, after winning the title, Woodley would immediately call out George St. Pierre and Nick Diaz as potential opponents. This rubbed fans the wrong way, as its Tyron hasn't done anything yet to earn a super fight, and it seemed as though he was avoiding the top contenders in the division. Woodley was given a chance to undo his wrongs by beating Jake Paul in a boxing match, but he got flatlined by the YouTuber in their rematch, leading to a wave of disappointment and hate coming his way. Once fan favorite, Jason "Mayhem" Miller, metamorphosed from a main attraction to a complete and utter outcast, marked one of the sport's biggest falls from grace. Miller retired 2012 following 2 consecutive losses in his second stint with the UFC. Then, in the year following his decision to leave MMA, Mayhem's life spiraled out of control, and the former Bully Beatdown host found himself in jail on several occasions. Mayhem's seemingly constant run-ins with the police has cost him the respect of his fans. And we can't mention Miller without talking about his infamous outbursts on the MMA Hour with Errol Helwani.
Man.
Yo, bro, I'm fucking sick of it. Yo,
Okay.
You know what? You guys fucking have your fucking stupid internet radio show in your mom's basement.
Miller is truly one of the most bizarre characters of the sport. Take an ounce of arrogance and a pinch of douchebaggery and mix them in a pot. Sprinkle a heavy British accent on top, and what do you get? You get Michael Bisping. The Count was a master of being unlikable, and his antics seemed more offensive with each passing fight. Bisping was at his dirtiest at UFC 127 after throwing an illegal knee at Jorge Rivera, then spitting on Rivera's team for that cherry on top. Fans were ecstatic to see him lose and took every chance to pile on him when he was down. Despite being hated throughout his career, he's become one of the more beloved characters in the sport after winning gold at the ripe age of 37. He's currently an analyst and commentator for the UFC. What's multicolored, covered in tattoos, and smokes dubious amounts of weed? Correct, it's Sean O'Malley. Known initially for Dana White's Contender Series, O'Malley has taken the MMA world by storm due to his looks and masterful performances, primarily via knockouts. The main reason he's hated, however, is his knack for fighting unranked fighters and claiming to be undefeated despite his lone loss to Chito Vera. O'Malley explains that picking unranked fighters is strictly a financial move. Jon will be facing substantial setup and competition against former bantamweight champion Petr Yan at UFC 280, and his performance will dictate whether or not he's a world-class fighter. Before Colby Covington, we had Chael Sonnen. In 2008, months before his second stint with the UFC, only hardcore MMA fans recognized the name Chael Sonnen. But not long after his informal coming out party in 2009, Sonnen quickly transformed into the sport's pound-for-pound king of trash talking. The American gangster apparently learned that being silent and humble wouldn't get him anywhere, so he began to offer his unfiltered insight on a broad spectrum of issues. No one could hide from Sonnen's verbal jabs, not even the entire country of Brazil.
So I packed a suitcase full of gifts, full of things from America that they don't have. I'm trying to merge. I'm trying to merge the two countries in a way, that maybe we can work together. For example, I bought packets of soap for them because I know they don't have it, and I just want to help. And I brought shampoo.
Then, roughly 3 years after pleading guilty to money laundering, Sonnen added more fuel to the fire when he failed a drug test before a scheduled bout at UFC 175. The test showed that Sonnen had a plethora of banned substances in his system, including, but not limited to, HGH and EPO. This cost him his job at Fox Sports and the UFC. Tito Ortiz was the perfect villain early in his career, daunting his opponents before and after his fights and obliterating the opposition from 2000 to 2002. But once he was out of his prime, the Huntington Beach bad boy dropped 7 of his last 9 fights in the UFC while maintaining the same audacious attitude. In addition, a toxic marriage with former porn star Jenna Jameson contributed to arrests for domestic violence and DUI for Ortiz. A year after leaving Jameson, Ortiz retired from MMA, only to resurface 2 years later with Bellator MMA, where he is still accumulating new fans and fresh haters. His latest epic performance came against Anderson Silva in a boxing match where he lost by KO in the first round. Although he's the greatest of all time, Jon Jones isn't in any shortage of haters. Unfortunately, Jones's actions outside the cage have only worsened over time, from DUIs to a domestic violence charge and testing positive for PEDs. Despite all these issues, rather than admitting some fault, he would explain that it was God testing him. Recently, Jones has looked the most beatable that he has ever looked inside the cage. In his last 2 fights, he beat Thiago Santos through a split decision and Dominic Reyes in a fight many thought he lost. Rather than give Reyes an immediate rematch, he decided to vacate the title and bulk up for a fight at heavyweight. He's expected to return later this year or early next year. The sport owes a lot to Ronda Rousey. She's a pioneer of women's MMA and brought a lot of attention to the UFC. She tore through the bantamweight division like chainsaw through butter. However, her lack of sportsmanship turned many fans against her, most notably refusing to shake Miesha Tate's hand after defeating her. After losing to Holly Holm in the biggest upset of the year, Ronda went into self-exile, shutting the media and her fans. Ronda returned a year later and lost again by KO to Amanda Nunes. Her refusal to admit defeat and address the losses turned even more fans against her. Regardless, she played an important role in the sport's growth and will forever be remembered as one of the greats. Josh Koscheck first graced the masses with his presence back in the first season of The Ultimate Fighter. His antics and bad boy behavior made audiences immediately hate him. Returning to the show as a coach opposite George St. Pierre, he continued his practical jokes and trash talking, something he could not back up when he was picked apart by the champion at UFC 124. Just an overall off-putting character. Even his college wrestling coach said many of the team didn't like Josh, even though they respected his skills on the mat. Koscheck's demeanor has made him one of the UFC's biggest heels. If you enjoyed this, make sure to let us know by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.